Back, time for our discussion on the Pope's visit. I want to introduce my panel to you, and we're focusing on inter-religious dialogue. To my immediate right is Alhaj Yusuf Murigu. He is the Deputy Chair of the National Muslim Youth Leaders Forum. Next to him is Father Charles Odera, the Secretary to the Inter-Religious Forum, and to my left is Edward Kisiangani, our resident analyst. You're all welcome to the program, and we'll be getting to our discussion on inter-religious harmony very shortly. But first, Pope Francis today also met Catholic clergy and urged them to live by their vows. In a meeting with leaders of other faiths held earlier today, the pontiff asked them to help end acts of terror that have been perpetrated in God's name. Alex Kubasu reports.
In his meeting with Catholic clergy, Pope Francis chose to address sticky issues that have dogged the Catholic Church. That of clergy who broke their vows. Addressing a meeting of over 10,000 clergy in his native Spanish language, Pope Francis asked them to live by their vows. In a passionate, compelling and candid conversation, he asked them to be symbols of humility. At the meeting, he was at home, his speech leaving his audience in stitches. It has been a refreshing and a kind of renewal, and as they go home, we sought some of the message and the take home that some of the religious here are taking from the Pope today. Sister, what was the take home message from the Pope today?
The message from Pope is that we be concerned with the families.
The apostolic life is very challenging, it's very difficult, and because of that he said pray. Then don't wait to be served, serve. And in fact, if you intend to be served, this is not your work. And he said, if you feel it's too much, go home.
Earlier, Pope Francis met leaders from different faiths where he emphasized on dialogue between Muslim and Christian faiths as a way of bringing an end to attacks that have been perpetrated in the name of God.
May the Almighty touch the hearts of those who engage in this violence and grant us peace to our families and communities.
Saying the world is wounded by conflict and division, Pope Francis cited terror attacks in Garissa University and Westgate Shopping Mall and pleaded for a more unified front in fighting terror. The pontiff, who spoke at the meeting held at the Apostolic Nunciature in Nairobi, said radicalization of young people will be stopped if the two faiths work together.
I'm sure we in Kenya, as a religious community, will work together to accommodate one another in our institution.
The Pope later visited the United Nations Environmental Management Program headquarters in Gigiri, where he urged world leaders to come up with a strong agreement during the upcoming Paris climate change talks.
As I already said before the UN General Assembly, we avoid every temptation to fall into a declarationist nominalism, which would just assuage our consciences. We need to ensure that our institutions are genuinely effective.
Pope Francis has been very vocal on matters of climate change, which is substantively addressed through his papal letter to the world titled Laudato Si. Alex Kubasu, Citizen Live at 9.
And off the back of that story, our discussion now. Prof, I want to start with you. What are your feelings generally on the Pope's visit and specifically on his message on inter-religious harmony?
First of all, I am excited that the Pope came to our country. I think there could never be a better time for him to visit us, and the message he has given is quite spot on. One of the things that the Pope has done is to convey messages of peace, messages of humility, and he has asked the leadership of Africa and the leadership of this country to work in service to humanity, provide service to humanity, and do a couple of things, including being inclusive in their approaches. And also he asked for reconciliation, and as you have seen from the caption there, he reiterated that you can never use the name of God to promote violence. So these messages resonate well with the problems we have had in this country and by extension the continent of Africa. We have a crisis of leadership in Africa. where people have used their positions of leadership to acquire wealth. And you remember even the Pope talked about the crisis of greed, and they said that people must shed off the greed they have and live a simple life. And he said, don't take shortcuts. You shouldn't go through the window. He said you must go through the door. So don't take shortcuts. And in this country, and as well as the rest of Africa, and we have crisis of corruption, we have crisis of bad leadership, ethnic animosity, religious animosity, and lack of tolerance. The Pope has come to Africa at the right time when we need to address these issues, and probably we have lost the way in Africa. But he is the shepherd of God, and I think he has given us direction, and we hope that when he leaves our country, we shall reflect upon these virtues and take the right direction for our continent.
Right. Father, how would you describe Kenya's interreligious ties?
I think the Kenyan interreligious situation, I'd say there is something positive, because despite all the challenges, we always find a way to come together and highlight more on what we share than what really divides us. We have challenges as human beings. We try, everyone stands and say to his identity or her identity, but coming down, I think we find literally that there are so many things that brings us together, the values that we share, the integrity of creation, the integrity of human life. That is something that all the religions share. So, and I'm glad that even the Holy Father is banking on that when he talks about environment, climate change. This is integrity of creation. This is something, a value that is shared with other faiths like Muslims and the rest. And when he talks of the respect for human life, that is again a common value. So focusing more on common value, that is what we are striving for.
Right, you preempted my next question, but I'll nonetheless pose it to you, Al-Hajj, because we have had various incidents, the sad ones, that have almost pushed Kenya to the brink. Thankfully, we never have disintegrated into religious conflict. What is it that you think keeps us together?
What keeps us together is found in the question you asked first about our interfaith. You might remember that there was a time the whole world was told that Kenya has got a lot of religious sects. But my translation to that is that Kenyans love God, and they look for him everywhere they can. And therefore, by having many sects and religions, we have learned to tolerate each other and to live together. I am told by somebody, I cannot confirm this, that there are some people who want Kenya to disintegrate. And we have seen Westgate, we have seen bombing of the Embassy of America, etc. And those people thought that immediately thereafter, Christians are going to kill Muslims because they perpetrated that. And we have managed because of how resilient we are. In fact, I would be unhappy if I left here without praising the people of Kenya, thanking God for giving us our hearts. I have traveled almost the whole world, every country. People of Kenya are just something else. You hurt him, you apologize, they forgive. And I hope we shall talk about forgiveness, because this is the biggest thing in every religion, in Christianity, in Islam, whatever else. If you don't forgive, because nobody is like me, you know. So for me to be at peace with you, I have to forgive many things you do that I don't do the way that you do. So I love Kenyans because they forgive. And this question of interfaith, and I hope later we talk about the council, has really made us resilient and has made those who want us to have problems be ashamed, and I thank God very much for that.
Yeah, we all certainly do. So let's talk specifically about the council right now. What do you actively do to promote interreligious harmony?
Yeah, even from the inception of the Interreligious Council of Kenya, is that first we respect everybody's faith. So the council is not in the business of converting anybody who is a member there. We don't come there and a Muslim tells a Christian, you better join me and leave your religion. Neither do the Christians do that. And we zero in on things, especially not religious, that we need to do together for mankind. Like when Ukimwi was the biggest thing, AIDS was the biggest, we worked together. And we do, if there's an epidemic of this, there is poverty, there is what, we zero in on that and we go together. And this has helped in what you asked earlier, when a follower of Hinduism sees his top man with the top person, Father Odira from the Roman Catholic faith, and whoever, they say, oh, our people are together, we also do together. Leadership is very important. As my brother said there, that leadership, we need it. And by the way, our problem that we are talking about is not just in Africa. The whole world is short of integrity, short of peace. In fact, the Irish Republican Army started throwing bombs before we knew what bombs were. So the whole world has a problem. Kenya is doing very well, and I pray to God that we do much better.
Father, you know, this can be a touchy subject, especially when one tries to point a finger at, you know, what the specific grievances are. In what areas do you think there has been misunderstanding between the various religious communities in the country?
I think of late, the issue of these terror attacks that have been interpreted to be religious, I think it is something that has created a bit of suspicion and a bit of antagonism among the religious and even with the community because of what the kind of faith the terrorists claim they profess. But I think the religion is not the problem here, and the faith someone professes is not the problem. The problem is the interpretation of the religion, because looking at the holy books, looking at the doctrines that are there, they are not necessarily sending someone to cause chaos or in the society. But the way I interpret, I will give an example in the Bible. There is a place they say in the Old Testament, eye for an eye. If someone picks that one and says, this is what I want to go by, then the whole world will go blind. But then in the New Testament, in the same Bible, they say if someone slaps your left cheek, give the other one, as in love your enemies as well. So you see, there is that kind of thing. So it is the understanding of the doctrine, and if you don't understand the teaching and the doctrine in context, then you end up using it for something else. And so when you sit as a council with Al-Hajj here, how then do you go back and correct those wrongs that could be in the teachings of different faiths? I like this morning I was in the meeting with the Pope and the other faiths. I like what Professor Saidi said about that we cannot change the doctrines. We cannot change the Muslims cannot change us. Jesus still remains the Lord. The Muhammad also remains the Prophet. So what we need to focus on is something else, that we need to change our attitude towards each other. And this is what we need to build. The friendship, I like the word friendship that the Pope uses, that we need to create friendship among us. Maybe that one will make us, but if we spend more time on what makes us different, then that is where we go wrong. Prof.
But I think also further, there has been, I think I agree with you with regards to interpretation. I think the right thing for religious leaders to do is to preach the gospel, the word of God, the Quran in a manner that says that we have only one home we are going to, but this home has several gates. So you can enter that home through gate A, gate B, gate C, and therefore there is no superior gate more than the other. So if we take that as the basis of discussion or relationship between religious faiths, we are likely to end up with a lot of harmony. The other thing that the challenge which I see working is the politicization. In fact, the interpretation of the word of God has taken a political tangent, where the political leadership in every country wants to interpret it the way they want. And you can see that even the violence you have in the name of religion sometimes emanates from political objectives rather than religious objectives, and that poses a very big threat to our country and even to Africa. And I think if you look at what has happened, there are people who kill in the name of religion. There are people who murder in the name of religion. There are also people who abuse power in the name of religion, because they are also supported in that by some religious leaders. I think that has been a bigger challenge. Where do we draw the line between politics and religion, and how do we harmonize the two? Do you both see a line between politics and religion? I would like to comment, and before that I wanted the question you asked about
what we see as the problem between religions is lack of knowing the religions. And that is something that IRCK, Interreligious Council, is tackling. And maybe you saw recently bishops coming to Jamia Mosque on a Friday during the worship time and meeting the people. What we need to know is what does Christianity profess? What is it? Other than hearing from those who shout, and most of the times are not knowledgeable. So the knowledge is what we need. Now, question of drawing the line between, I seem to say my brother may not be a religious leader. Religion is in everything. And if we have done badly in a certain area, does not mean we have failed. We continue. The politicians, we blame them very much, and I also do, because they highlight things and they flare things up. But we elect them. So we in religion, we want to go to into the whole thing. There is nothing that is not religious. So we get to making politics better. They say it's a dirty game. It doesn't have to be dirty.
Can religion clean it up?
It can't. We keep trying. Even Jesus kept trying. You see, you keep trying, and we do our best. And what we know is that God is there. He made us. He knows our weaknesses. He's very forgiving. We try hard. Where we fail, we stand up and brush ourselves and continue. And I look forward to when politicians will be able to speak the truth, which is very rare, and also do things that is not just about me, myself, and I. So we hope we get, and we talk to them, and we make friends with them. We don't go there shouting at them and pointing fingers. You talk to them like your brothers, because we put them there. We are the biggest mistake carriers.
Okay, I want to just carry on from where you've talked about forgiveness and making mistakes, etc. And when you talk about you know, dialogue and bringing different faiths together, actually, in any context, forgiveness is
top.
It's top, yes, it's an important issue, but it's also a misunderstood one. What, Father, does forgiveness actually mean? And is it an event or a journey? And if you could be very practical in terms of how people can forgive each other, either because of, you know, the religious misconceptions or grievances we may have against each other, or the ethnic ones that we've also seen try to divide this country, or political ones.
First, I would begin by saying that if someone does something bad to you, it is natural that you feel pain, you feel bad about that person, you feel like revenging. So the first thing that comes is to revenge. But then forgiveness comes when you are able to rise above the feeling of revenge and try to reach out to the same brother that way, because the best way actually to heal your own pains is to forgive. If you don't forgive, the person you have not forgiven is not suffering. He's not feeling pain. You are the one who is feeling pain.
But how do you rise above that need for retribution?
Yeah, the first thing is to realize who is suffering among the two. For example,
it's the one who's been grieved.
Yeah. So the one who really needs that forgiveness, it is you. It is not the other person. The other person might be more comfortable because, like he has offended. You have seen in politics how they exchange words. Someone tells you something bad, and if you think it is not bad enough to give you pain, then they'll put another one until they see, now my brother is suffering, then they are happy. But in the religion, from a spiritual perspective, even psychologically, it heals the person. You are the one who needs that forgiveness, because the moment you forgive, that is the moment you ease your burden. And if the other person does not respond to this, you have already felt free, because you have freed yourself from that bondage of feeling bad about the other person.
And when they do it again?
That is the best way also to conquer someone. Have you ever been abused by someone for a long time and you say thank you?
No,
he abuses you again, you say thank you. That person will feel bad.
Piling hot coals on their head, I think one of the phrases. All right, Prof, I want to wind up with you, and you know, the Holy Father singled out youth as a critical constituency, one in maintaining, you know, peace, stability, the African values, as he called them as well. And yet many times they are the easy prey because they're not constructively engaged, they're suffering economically, etc. What do you think the role of religious institutions is in making sure these constituents within their, you know, their religious groupings are put to good, constructive, nation-building sort of work, so that we don't have a situation where we're expecting government alone to be providing jobs. You know, we're looking at NYS and Youth Fund and all those things. What's the role of the religious community in engaging their youth?
I think the job of the religious community is enormous. First, in molding the character of the youth and telling them to do the right thing. If you look at what the Pope said today, I think one of the things that he mentioned is that don't take shortcuts. So one of the problems that we're facing with our youth is that they think that when they want something, they can get it through a shortcut. So I think the religious community has a duty to educate our youth and keep passing the message that shortcuts are not good. And then also say that, you know, they must work hard. God is not ethnic. In fact, some of the messages that they should get is that God is not ethnic, but also God does not like laziness. So they should also work hard, and there are also challenges that they are not going to get what they want very easily. So they must also have initiative in whatever they do, and they will always know that some things will be difficult. And when they are difficult, that is the way God, you know, it makes them remember that there is God. In my opinion, the churches, the mosques, all of them have a duty, but above everything else, even when the churches are doing this, they must engage the political leadership also to be honest with the way they deal with the youth. A lot of investment should be put in the youth. The political leadership should give the youth some hope that even when things are not working, we are suffering together, so that they don't get double messages where, for example, public funds are misused and they say there is no money to create jobs for the youth. So
right.
this
honesty in the political discourse when it comes to youth, and that's a practical way to domesticate the Pope's message.
Yeah, they can domesticate.
Your final thoughts, very briefly.
Yes, I will try to be brief because first of all, about the youth. Not only the religious community need to do, but they do. You have seen how the youth, the religious community have done. In the council, there is a special commission for youth. So youth is very important in the religious. But I wanted also to comment on forgiveness, which you asked earlier.
Right.
Because I want to give a perspective, people to start thinking. Because your question is very pertinent, that how do you forgive? You must start from yourself having hurt people. Most of the times unintentionally, because other than politicians, as he said, most of us hurt others without intending to hurt them. Right. And therefore, it starts with learning to apologize. What is apologizing? Apologizing is one, feeling remorse for what you have done, because you have hurt that person, and wanting never to do it again. And then when you are saying, forgive me, already Allah forgives you because of your intention. Then when you know that you can hurt without intending, then you start forgiving people. Some of them don't even know that they are doing what they do. Because you know you have done and you have done. So forgiving is very, very important. And I wanted to echo something my brother, the professor, said about greed, because I don't want that to go without being mentioned. We all know about peace, we know about magnanimity, everything. But greed somehow does not get enough talking about as other things. And greed is like in Kenya, is our biggest problem. The rest are smaller. They are there, even tribalism is much smaller. But there's greed. A young person comes from the university or from school, he wants to work, and he finds he wants to copy Mr. So-and-so who is up there. He finds he made all wrong shortcuts. So this greed is making very bad role models, and we have to deal with greed. As the Pope said, we have to deal with greed.
Wow.
Yeah.
Father?
So I would like to say that Kenya is a very diverse country, and from a religious perspective, cultural and political, and this diversity is a value. It is something that we need to cherish to develop our country positively, because what I don't have, the other has, and what the other has, I don't have. If we realize that this is a resource other than a way of creating division, I think we shall work together. And I would urge Kenyans that even with this coming inspiration that the Holy Father brings to us, and the fruit of this meeting that we had this morning, that we may begin to journey together and look at this diversity as a resource that can develop us as persons and as a country.
Father Al-Hajj, Prof, I thank you all for your views. We're taking a break. We're back after this.